make sure that we're good first.
It's important that my director has his beer. Okay. Hello, welcome to our channel. My name is Kiersten Michelle. I am a YA fantasy author and massive bookworm / dragon. I'm both. So, also an addict. We just don't talk about that part. So, today we're going to talk about controversial books that I love and I'm obsessed with, and you can tell me they did no wrong. I don't care. No, they are perfect books, even though I recognize they're not perfect. I don't care. So these books are not hated by any means. I don't think a lot of people like these books, but they're definitely lower stars on Goodreads, 3.5, which I personally feel like is not that low. Whatever. / they're ones that I've just heard some very strong opinions from that are just not my opinion, as you'll see. So, we're going to start with a random one that is a classic. And I get that a lot of classics are controversial because people just hate them from school. But A Tale of Two Cities is one of my favorite classics, and I feel like it is so underrated. If you have not read this since you had to read it in high school, oh my god, go read it. This book is one of my favorite love stories. And I feel like I see booktubers constantly talking about Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte, the Bronte sisters. No one ever talks about A Tale of Two Cities, which is literally a love story that takes place during a war with spies and intrigue. How can you not love that? So, this is my first one. I'm going to say I personally love this story. I get Charles Dickens can be difficult to get through. I get he sometimes describes things and you're like, I don't need to know what the woman is knitting for 20 pages. But the fact that the woman is knitting is a big deal, okay? It's a big deal. Anyways, I love this book. Okay, next one is way newer. And of course, I don't have the cover on it because I love this edition. I'm not sponsored by Fairy Loot, but look at it, it's so pretty. So, City of Nightmares. This is definitely a newer book. I believe it came out 2 months ago at this point. This book, I loved. And it's so funny because it is not a book that I normally like. It takes place in very modern city world with fantastical elements. You can see the dinosaur on the back. It is a weird book, and I get why some people might not like it. It's weird, but it is so good. So, pretty much what it's about is, it is a world, it is a city of nightmares, where not every time, but most times that people fall asleep and start dreaming, they turn into their nightmares. Hence, someone had a nightmare about a dinosaur and turned into a dinosaur. So there's a bunch of spiders running around. And so they have drugs that is trying to prevent this. It's trying to help this, but it's not perfect. And yeah, that's the setting. And it's about people trying to figure out how to survive and get through, and obviously stuff happens and drama. But yeah, there's a freaking dinosaur. You can't convince me there was anything wrong with this book. There's a dinosaur. Sorry. So yeah, City of Nightmares. Loved. Okay, this is another one that I feel like a lot of people really do like. But I've also heard some really strong opinions in the negative. And I will... No. You're wrong. Mexican Gothic. Okay, so this was the first book I read from Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love her now. But also, I just love Gothics, so I probably was always gonna love this book. Maybe that was the problem, is just, I was biased going in. But this book had me on the edge of my seat, despite the fact that, nothing happens for, the longest time. It is truly a classic Gothic, where you're just reading about this woman visiting her cousin, I think it's her cousin, at their rich husband's house, and they're weird. Freaking weird. And there's some racial stuff going on, because they're, white in Mexico. The main character's not white. The husband and family are pretty white and kind of racist. Lovely. So, weird tension, but like you're like, what the heck is gonna happen? Where is this going? And then when it happens, oh, it happens, and I get why people don't like the ending, and I can't say it without spoilers, but I loved it, and I don't care if it was weird. It was amazing. Yes. Everything. Okay. So, next one is another one that I feel like I haven't heard. Most people are lukewarm, and there's a very specific reason people are lukewarm on it. But One Italian Summer, and this one I am going to admit also is 100% a personal thing. This is about a woman whose mother dies, and she goes on a vacation that she was supposed to go on with her mother to process the death. And that just, hits me in a way. So I get why I ended up really loving this book. She ends up meeting her mom in that world as her mom is a younger version of herself when she first went. So there's like time travel. And she gets to spend the summer with her young mom when her mom doesn't know that she's her future daughter. It's weird. There is some love story stuff that happens that a lot of people didn't like. I also didn't like it. It wasn't great. But I can't. This book was just so perfect for what it was. It made me bawl my eyes out so many times. So yeah, if that premise sounds cool to you, recognize that yes, there's a little weird love story thing that happens that I'm like, ugh, not my thing. But the actual book about grief and family connection and getting to just get to know your mom on a different level, loved that. Okay, the next few I want to talk about, I don't have physical copies of because I give my books away apparently, and I'm getting yelled at by my husband about that, and I need to make sure my friends give me back my books. Okay, so other ones that I love that other people have had mixed opinions of. The first one is The Historian, which I think is probably the one that inspired me to make this video. The Historian, if you do not know, it's a little older of a book. I read it a while ago, but the fact that it still sits with me, I think, says something. It is about a modern day woman who is a historian, and her dad was a historian, and her dad was in the search for the real history, the realness of Dracula, and he disappears. And then the woman is searching for her father and ends up on the search for Dracula. Oh my god, it's Dracula! They're looking for freaking Dracula. In modern day, they go to travel to all these places that I love. I believe they go to like Prague and Budapest and the UK, and I love traveling. So I love books that travel. Hence, One Italian Summer. It is really long, and I have heard so many people talk about how slow it is and how boring and how nothing happens and why is it this long. I literally, I remember reading it and I was like, I don't want to put this book down. I never once felt bored. I was just so immersed in the world and the book. I don't care how long it was. I just don't care. And I wish I had the physical copy because I could show you. It's a chunky boy. But I love it. I love it. Okay. Other ones I've heard controversial opinions of, and I feel weird because I don't know if I can actually support my opinion on this. But Bunny? I loved Bunny. I feel like it's one of those books you either love or you hate. I loved it. Do I know what happened? No. No, I don't. I have no idea what happened. I really need to read it again. But it was great, and I highly recommend it. Because no matter what, you're going to walk away with an opinion. And, I mean, that's really what books are about. So, Bunny is... How do I explain this? So it is a dark academia book. I don't know if I really consider it that because it was a little just... Takes place on a campus, though. College student who... There's these girls in her class that are so obnoxious. They call each other Bunny constantly. They're really annoying. And she's like, oh my god, I hate these girls. And then she somehow ends up in their group and makes friends with them and is like, oh, maybe I want to know what's going on. Maybe I like them. And then stuff just goes crazy. That's literally, that's the only way I can summarize that book. It's just weird. And I think the way I've heard it described too is like Frankenstein-ish, which I can see. But yeah, I feel like I can't say much without spoiling things. So just academic girl trying to figure out who these weird bunny people are. Yeah. Okay. And then the last one I want to talk about, which I adored. And it can't be that controversial because I think it was on the Goodreads 2022 like finalists for, what is it, Book of the Year for fantasy or horror. I don't remember which. But The Book Eaters. I loved that book. I had so many feelings. It was one of those books that I like was throwing it across the room and screaming because I was so angry at times, and not at the book, but at the people. And you're like, oh my God, this woman can write someone you hate so well. But then I looked at Goodreads and it actually had a like relatively low rating. And a lot of people were like not loving it. I was like, I feel like I read a different book because I saw nothing wrong with that book. It made me feel so many things. So The Book Eater is about, it's our world, except there is a portion of our world, there are people that eat books. That's what they eat. They subside on books. By the way, they do learn whatever they eat from the book, which is just, anyone who ever has gone to grad school, that is their dream. So yes, these people eat books, so they're really not eligible. Obviously, though, they're outcast. They don't interact with people because they don't want to get caught out. And then there's this other portion where sometimes they're born and instead of eating books, they eat brains. So that's not great, not well liked. And so there's this medicine they came up with to make it so the person that eats brains doesn't have to eat brains. But then the supply runs out. You have this mother's journey to try to figure out how to get her son that medicine. She's also running away because there's a lot of feminism undertones around it. So just, it's a little dystopian, a little fantasy, a little horror. Maybe this is why people don't like it, because it's really hard to explain in genre and just parse out. But it's just so good, especially if you like angry femaleness. You'll get angry. But wonderful characters, and once again, I felt more from that book than I felt in a while. So I think that's it. I am sure there's other ones I'm not thinking of. Maybe I'll do another video at some point. But like I said, these are not hated books. I just think they're books that I will rave, like, 6 stars! I 5 stars isn't enough! And then other people are like, that one? Yeah? But I get passionate about books sometimes, and I'm like, no, you can't tell me it did anything wrong. It was the perfect book. I can even acknowledge the mistakes, and then I'm like, no, but it's still a perfect book. So I hope you enjoyed, even if you disagreed. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I will choose whether or not to ignore this. But yeah, let me know if there's any that I missed, or I don't know, from you personally that you think are controversial loves. Yeah.